Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Steve Eisenbarth.
Present.
Robert Pope.
Present.
Aaron Tivabaugh.
Present.
Don Loudon. Greg Zuzan.
Present.
Make sure your mics are on, please. Thank you.
All right, next is the consent agenda. Is there any discussion for the consent agenda this evening?
None. I'll make a motion. We accept it as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Julie, take roll call.
Don Loudon.
4.
Greg Zuzan.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Aaron Tivabaugh.
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
All right, next will be public comment. The public may comment on items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing this evening or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. Is there anyone that would like to come forward? Come on up, speak your, or say your name and your address, please. And then you'll want to
Please.
make sure you turn on your microphone.
Make sure it's a green light.
Down.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Frederick McCracken. I live at 9624 Lomax Drive, Avon, Indiana. And my comments are on the proposed Brookstone PUD introduction. I truly don't have any objections to what's in there except to make sure that we carry forward all the agreements from previously. So there were some, and on a side discussion, they said they have it. They're going to forward the landscaping at the back of my property, which provides some barrier and doesn't make it so ugly, and as well as my 4 neighbors. There's also an agreement with the HOA. I just rejoined that about a month ago. Our president, Lynn, is back here. And so we gave them a copy. Lynn gave them a copy of that. They'll send it to us. I'll do a confirming email, and I'm fine with it. I also contacted my friends over at the Lutheran Church, some of their engineers, and so I don't know if anybody's here from Lutheran Church. If not, they're all aware of it now. And I did catch up with Mr. Williams today. He wasn't aware, but his wife has some medical issues today, and he won't be here. So I don't know what's being done there. And really, it doesn't bother me much, except, as I've mentioned before, I don't like to see people's property rights trampled upon. The whole thing, the important part of this, it gets rid of some ugly buildings on 100. The only buildings I know of in Avon that are falling down, roofs have slid off, and walls are starting to collapse. That's where the entrance is going to be. So you do a great thing if you approve it for that. And we maintain all that we have approved already. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Fred.
My name is Lynn Revo, and I live at 783 Hollywood Lane in Avon, Indiana. I am the current president of Avon Trail's HOA. I want to tell you that we are very glad, very happy that Pulte is on the scene again for the this project. They have given us assurances that when they tie into our drainage system, that any upheaval, any digging up of our common area will be restored to its original position. And all of our neighbors that I've talked to were very, very happy that Pulte is back on the scene. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, my name is John Anderson. I am with Level 2 Co-working, and I'm actually in Plainfield, Indiana, not Avon. But I did want to talk to you about some of the programming and make you aware of some of the things that we're doing. Our mission, we're a 501c3, and we're actually a co-working space located at the Shops at Perry Crossing Mall. But our mission is to foster entrepreneurship and cultivate growth in small businesses in Hendricks County, throughout the county. We have a large amount of programs happening in this fall. Because COVID, we didn't want to plan anything in the spring. I mean, thanks Delta variant. Now we're still confused about what's happening. But with that being said, I just want to let you know, we're actually planning a student pitch competition for the high school students throughout the county. It'll be 3 rounds starting October 8th and ending with a final round pitch competition at Level 2. We have a steering committee made up of all the school systems in the county. To take place. And another great thing that we're putting on is an Entrepreneurship Summit on October 1st, and that's free to all entrepreneurs in the county. It's on our website, level2coworking.com, but we have a full day planned, starting with what business entity to choose. We're gonna have an attorney and an accountant give the different liabilities and tax implications of each business entity, as well as we have a funding panel with venture capital, a small business lending, and a marketing panel, HR, things like that. So we provide a lot of resources to the county in general. So I just wanted to make the council aware that we existed, and that if you have any entrepreneurs that are asking for resources, we are a resource. And then there are several resources in Marion County that we could reach out to for help as well. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, and then thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. John, could you leave your contact information with Ryan, maybe? That'd be great. Thank you.
Anyone else? If no one else coming forward, we'll move on to council comment and liaison reports. Aaron?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a little bit behind, but I want to give everyone a huge congratulations, especially the police department, for National Night Out. I know everyone was there. Some were working a little harder than others, Robert, cooking hot dogs, but what an amazing event. I mean, in all honesty, for this community to go from when I came in 2015, or my first year here, we had nothing. And to go to the level that it is now, and just really to walk around and see the enjoyment that everyone gets from that was just awesome. So I appreciate that as much as everyone else. My youngest agreed to stop by, even though it was her birthday after dinner, so I was able to attend. So that was good. And also great job to everyone who participated in burning questions. I felt bad for all of you. I won't be doing that, just full disclaimer, but it was entertaining for me, especially on a Friday, to sit here and watch that. But all jokes aside, Jared, I did an amazing job with that and everything else that's going on, so I appreciate all you're doing. I want to give a quick thank you to Delbert and the Parks Department Tuesday for the farmers market. It was a 102-degree heat index, and Delbert was out there underneath his tent making sure that anyone who wanted to attend can enjoy it. Now, a lot of the vendors chose not to, and I understand why, but there was a handful of people out there. And so appreciate that. I know that's coming to a close here soon. And also congratulations and appreciate Nate Hawk from the police department. I see he's attending the IMPD Leadership Academy. So always appreciate men and women from the police department doing that personal and professional development. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Just had a WCCD board meeting last week. Nothing really of issue to bring up. That was it.
We had a redevelopment commission meeting, and we do have a resignation. Gary Cook is going to have to resign for health reasons, so we're going to have an opening, a vacancy available for that.
maybe piggyback on that, on resignations and different reasons, people moving, one gentleman moving to Richmond. We're going to have openings on the Plan Commission, RDA, and Stormwater. And so Stormwater didn't meet this month, but should be meeting next month coming up. Hendricks County Recycling, we did meet on Tuesday in person. And I guess I got to be careful what I say when I'm talking about tipping fees and everything. Now I'm on the study committee to go through it, and I've got these spreadsheets I'm reviewing. But we will need to increase the fees, which is not going to be popular. And so I'm all excited about being on that committee now. So Toxaway Day is I'm coming up here this Saturday on the 28th at the Hendricks County Fairgrounds, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And, you know, all this events and talking with this Hendricks County Recycling, what it reminds me of is when we do get our unification process together, I would like to really spearhead and work on seeing about waste, taking care of waste on a basis of the town of doing that, and also recycling, because all these problems I'm hearing about the recycling is just basically people not knowing what to do. And it's going to be an education thing. So anyway, that's another thing that'll come up later, but I would like to do that and move on that. That's enough for me.
I attended the Plan Commission meeting on Monday night, and as Steve kind of spoke to, Sam DeVol will be relocating to the other side of the state of Indiana, so he will leave a vacancy on Plan Commission. And so, Ryan, I guess I'd ask you to maybe send out an email, let all of us know, again, if we have any political affiliation that goes with those openings, or if they need to be in the town, or if they can be in the township, things like that. And I would just say to the public that if you have an interest in serving on a board or a committee, to go online and fill out an application, and we'll be reviewing those again.
Hey, Don. Also, the past applications, maybe if we could look through those past applications we had earlier in the year, because we had some spark plug people that were interested, and it just timing wasn't there at the time, and see where they're at right now, maybe.
Thank you. There is no old business, so we'll move right on into new business, and the first of which is the introduction of the Brookstone PUD with Pulte Homes.
Oh, great, thanks. Okay.
You need to go back.
Is that the? That's a laser pointer. Oh, perfect. Okay, great, thanks, appreciate it. Good evening, members of the Avon Town Council. For the record, David M. Compton, Vice President, Land Acquisition, Pulte Homes of Indiana. And with me tonight, I have Robin Crawford, who is our Director of Land Acquisition, recently relocated to Indiana from Columbus, Ohio. So we're glad to have her back home. So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. The last time we were in front of each other was January of 2020. Whoa, what a different world, you know. We all were in during that time, very humbling in many, many different ways. And what we personally learned and what we learned as a company. So we appreciate the opportunity to come back and present to you tonight and get your input. I want to say pulse too. I try to put them together, but input and pulse on the changes that we've made. The acreage hasn't changed. It's still around 80 acres. Location hasn't changed on south of 100 North. We are west of the Avon Trails, southwest of Camden, and directly south of Brownstone Development, just to kind of put everybody kind of familiar where we are. This was the original concept plan, 184 sites. Some of the things had trail connectivity through it. Had actually, I want to say, look at it. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cul-de-sacs that were part of the development. This is the new plan with down to 152 lots from 174, I think was our last council hearing. So we or 172, I think we've dropped 20 lots. 3 of the cul-de-sacs have gone away. All of the coda loops have gone away. The lakes, originally there was just one here and one here. Now there's 2 in the other common areas. So that allowed us to make this lake next to Avon Trails a little smaller and open up this common area in there. The open space went up by about 10%. We went from about 30% open space to over 41% open space within the community. So it really allowed to open up the open space within the community, give almost every lot within the community backing up to some type of open space, which is really exciting, we think, for the community itself. I'm going to look at a quick side-by-side comparison. Our density is now down below 2 units an acre. We're down at 1.87 units per acre. Here's the 2 plans side by side. I think this really highlights the differences, taking out the cul-de-sac here, taking out this coda loop in here, down here, and then kind of taking this one out and actually creating green space. And this turned out to be evolutionary. Time, I think, created a much, much better land plan, a lot smoother flow, a great opportunity, again, for different and open space opportunities. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those because Robin's really our product expert. She's come from a sales background, but when she was at Indy and then when she was in Columbus, so she's going to talk about the product evolution. They're just going to let the old accountant and me talk about the land plan. So this is the new land plan, kind of colored up and highlighted. You can see there's really 4 major open space areas here. I'm going to do it as 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to kind of walk through the programming that we have in each one because we felt like we wanted each one to create a different experience for the homeowner. So let's talk about open space 1. I'm going to look at my cheat sheet here. There's 5.91 acres of gross common area there. That picks up this piece and this little piece, but in here there's 5.91, almost 6 acres. 1.33 acres of that is the pond, but we also measured to the top of the bank because you can't really play on the side of a bank of a pond. So when I wanted to do net usable acre in the common area of space 1 is 3.7, okay? So great common area for the kids to play in, adds to property values, unique, pretty cool play set. I want the advanced one, I don't want the normal one. So let's go to common area 2. This is the part that's on the east side, adjacent to Avon Trails, okay? This one's 5.54 acres. The lake's bigger because we go to the top of the banks again over here. This one we wanted to be a little more passive. I think that this one's probably got a gazebo in it and kind of a sitting area, and this is the biggest lake we've got. So if it's going to get stocked, this is where the bluegill are going to be. And we often have that done in our homeowners associations. Sometimes it happens naturally. Sometimes we actually stock it as part of the process, the bigger lakes. And this eventually is the outfall point into the Avon Trails community. And then thanks for talking tonight. The president, yes, we're absolutely committed. If we disturb any ground as we're doing the offsite, we're going to clean up our mess and stay accountable. And so that's common area 2. Common area 3 is kind of in the middle. Again, got a pond, pocket park. Bench, kind of quiet sitting area. Again, just also an open play area there. That pocket park's big enough. Sitting area 3, or common area 3 is 3.53 acres. The pond at the top of the bank, again, is 1.32, leaving a net usable area of 2.21. So you can see all the common areas are over 2 acres outside the ponds, okay? So usable area for the residents. Common area 4 is on that west side, adjacent to the church property. We see this as not really being programmed. This is going to be open space. It may be able to grow up naturally. Different types of plantings in there. All the plantings and trees, consistent with our prior discussions, will be native Indiana hardwoods and spruces. So I'm done buying Bradford pears from Nashville. I did that earlier in my career. It was an error in judgment. But we're back to things that thrive in Indiana as far as that goes. So we've kind of talked about the 4 common areas, just some other notes on the land plan, and then I'm going to turn it over to Robin and give you the high altitude side of it. In regards to streets, we've A&F Engineering's been involved early, okay? They've talked to Steve Moore and worked on a design that we believe works with the existing right-of-way that exists, not having to buy additional right-of-way with the Williams. That allows us to go a little further in some rebuilding of 100 North and a little sharper turn in. But we've been talking to Steve Moore and have an email back from him that the new design was acceptable to the town of Avon. Obviously, the devil's in the details, and that'll have to go through TAC and everything else. You know, we're down to 152 lots. It's still two product lines. Robin provided me some great information to provide some overview. We believe that the smaller product line will average about $360,000. The larger product line will be averaging over $400,000. We did some market research in preparation for tonight. About 12% of the resales in the last 6 months, there were, according to the BLC, 587 resales in Avon in the last 6 months, okay? About 12.9% of those, are about 86 of them out of 587 were above $400,000. So this is going to give us an opportunity to serve a buyer in that top 13% of the buyer group within Westfield. I mean, wrong community, Avon, sorry. Within Avon, so allowing them to move up. And when we get into the $360,000 average, you pick up another 54 houses between $350 and $399. So for the vast majority of Avon residents, we believe that even the second tier, both tiers allow for two different types of move-ups within a high-quality community. We build a similar type community as we discussed, if you remember in the prior zoning, people brought up, you know, Greystone, Belle Arbor. Those are two sister communities that are in Brownsburg. And we just added another section to the Greystone community. So in summary, we appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. We feel like we've learned a lot. I want to turn it over to Robin and have her talk about the product evolution, because that's really her area of expertise, and that's outside of mine. We're both available for questions, and our purpose is to seek, again, your input. Nothing's changed of any of the commitments to the Avon Trails. Nothing's changed of our commitments to the church. We just waited to reach back out to them to reaffirm our prior commitments until we got in front of you. So thank you for your time. If it's okay, I'd like to have Robin. Yes, sir.
Well, before you bring
Yeah.
Robin up, just to answer some of the questions I have on
Sure.
what you presented.
Yeah.
Can you show us the map of the decel lane that you're talking about where you
You
changed?
know, I've got
that?
hard copies on that. It wasn't part of the presentation, but I did bring hard copies.
Okay. And then while you're doing that, I know some of the pictures that you showed in your open space. Who is going to maintain that open space? Is there going to be an HOA?
Yeah, there's all Pulte communities. Thanks, Greg. I feel like you pitched me an underhanded one. All Pulte communities have a mandatory homeowners association that we have one covenant that's not amendable. It has to have outside professional management. Especially with 41% open space, it's a big number to maintain. We want to make sure it always looks good. So we don't allow communities to self-manage. So there'll always be a third party. Are all management companies created the same? No, not all builders are created the same either. So, but I think having professional third-party management, if they're A, to ensure the collection of dues, B, to make sure it's maintained, and then C, covenant enforcement, is really important. So yes, there will be. This is the basic design. There's 3 different pages. The first page shows the changes on 100 North. The second 2 pages are a little more detailed. You got 2, sorry. You don't need 2. It's like trick or treat when you want that. But the first page was the showing the reduction, and then there's some page 2 kind of shows the blocking at the entrance. We actually go to 12 feet there. And it's going to require a lot more work on our side, as you can see, on 100 North to make sure the traffic can get in safely and not. So I didn't bring Steve Fairbach tonight, but Steve is available, and we'll continue discussions. Be at the Plan Commission and the council, and we'll continue to work with staff, counselor, on that.
Thank you. And my last question.
Yeah.
Those ponds, are they going to have water fountains or anything in there?
Yeah. We'll either have ponds or we'll either have fountains or aerators in all of our ponds. Pulte does that just to keep the water moving. They'll also be treated. ASAP is our preferred provider on that. They've had a long track record of being eco-friendly, but still treating all the ponds. So we'll address it two different ways. Of course, whatever signage and required safety ledges, any rescue preservers or whatever is required around the ponds, we absolutely, of course, will do as part of that. So, yes, Robert?
Can you talk about the trails? I see
Yeah.
one, looks like it shoots down the middle and
Yeah.
down the bottom. You didn't go into much detail about that. Can you?
Yeah, and I apologize. I had the note here and then I forgot to read it, okay? The trail that goes down the middle is believe, let me go to my cheat sheet here. The trail that goes down the middle, Robert, and now there's about 5 miles of internal sidewalks, but everybody has to do those. The trail along 100 North is 0.16 miles. The Avon Trail that's on the bottom, maybe I can go back and, sorry about that. Let's go back and look at that. So the trail's up here about 0.16, and this is your 10-foot trail that's required under your town ordinance along 100 North on signature streets. There's a trail along this is called your Avon Trail along the creek down here and gonna tie into multiple places. The Avon Trail is just over a quarter mile at 0.29, and it'll be 8 foot wide, okay, per your requirements. And then there's an asphalt trail. We like to differentiate the 5-foot walks versus trails within the common areas. You are correct. You'll be able to go from the Avon Trail, and all the kids or families that live down here be able to walk up through the community, enjoy all the parks all the way out to 100 North. So we think that's a pretty cool connectivity. This is a 6-foot trail coming through here rather than a 5, and it's asphalt, and that'll be maintained by the homeowners association. So that trail is. So I apologize. That was on my cheat sheet, and I didn't.
The one on the south side,
Yeah.
the Avon Trail, you're calling will
That's
that be
8 foot
maintained?
wide.
Yep.
Yeah.
Will that be maintained by the HOA or the town? Will that be turned over to the
If
town?
it's not dedicated, we'll maintain it.
Okay.
If the town wants it as part of their trail system, that's up for discussion, I guess. You know, if the town says we want you to maintain it, but we want to count it, you know, it'd be fine. It's up to the town, different municipalities want different things, so.
Does that trail tie into the Havens subdivision on 900?
Correct, yeah, so there's actually a creek that follows all the way. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, there's a creek that actually follows all the way from County Road 900, and it eventually connects all the way into Shiloh Creek. And so, yeah, our trail and sidewalk master plan actually shows a trail all along that creek. So yes, Greg, you're right, that subdivision at 900, we did have them, they've built the trail, it runs through there and it connects. There will be a gap on our Shepherd Lutheran, or not our Shepherd, it is our Shepherd Lutheran Church, on our Shepherd Lutheran Church piece, and we'll have to work with them to do that. They actually provided an easement when they came through for the church, but the trail just wasn't built. So the town will just have to go back and connect that. And then there's a church to the south as well, and they've provided an easement, and they'll actually build it as well eventually when they do their next phase. So it will connect all the way through.
Aren't there some condos back there too that we talked about putting up? And I think that's where originally the butterfly garden or something was going to be
Yeah.
back in that corner.
Yeah, if adding the parks, I kind of got rid of the butterfly garden, sorry.
That was it for me.
Okay, I'd like to
My
introduce
next
Robin.
question is going to be for Robin. Yeah.
Robin Crawford. Robin's gonna talk about product, and then we're both available for questions. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Make me nervous, Robert. Good evening, and thank you. For the record, my name is Robin Crawford. work in land acquisition, 11590 North Meridian, Carmel, Indiana. Like David had mentioned earlier, next week will be 18 years with Pulte. I started my career in Indianapolis, spent 7 years here, went to St. Louis, Columbus, Cleveland, and my whole family is here. I'm an identical twin here. My parents are here, and we're just thrilled to have the opportunity to come back. This is my first role in land, and really, this is one of the first 2 projects I was able to work on. So, when I first saw the file, I knew we had been here. I read a lot, talked to a lot of people, and we very quickly recognized that we needed to address the architecture, or definitely needed to address the architecture. But architecture means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'm here just to talk about some of the changes that we've made and answer any questions that you have. This first image is, a rendering, a streetscape. We feel like it's hard sometimes when you just see a blank piece of property to really understand how it's all going to come together. This image shows, some of the mixture of materials that we want to make sure that we provide on the front of the home. Color blocking. So we heard that loud and clear that we needed to address color. Diversity, not only with color, but again, also with materials. And, obviously you always want to add a happy couple holding hands walking up to the front of their home. So we did that as well. I'm going to talk about the home renderings. This was in our package. Again, just shows the front of the home. We'll talk about the sides as well and some of the things that we're going to do in the rear of the home. These renderings do not show some of our new colors, so I'll get to that a little bit later. But we do feel like this shows some of the difference in materials. So you can see some board and batten in the gables, regular horizontal and vertical siding as well. I will make mention, we did make the decision to do all fiber hardy board siding, so there won't be any vinyl in the community. And we've also changed the overhangs. I think previously they were 8 inches. It'll be 11 inches. So we made that change, and also incorporated trim around all of our windows. So there'll be 3.5-inch trim on all the windows, which not only will obviously help the front of the home, but the sides and the rear as well. So again, this is the 35-foot and 40-foot wide product. So as Dave mentioned earlier, we believe that this will be in the 360 to 370 range. One thing that we wanted to point out, and we did receive some feedback about some of the product and how some of our homes elevated in the Bell Arbor community. The image that you see down in the far right-hand corner shows the trellis above the garage. We will offer this elevation. And there are several other elevations that will have this option as well, as it'll be per plan. But again, just want to share that there will be a lot more opportunity to expand our monotony and diversity across the community. Yay. I'm super excited about this one. We've been working for quite some time to bring a new farmhouse style home to the communities. We actually have not even built them here yet, so we're excited to at least share this rendering. But this style has become increasingly popular, not only in Indianapolis, but across the country. So it's all white facade. We will offer black windows across the community. So we feel like it's very appropriate for the farmhouse with the white and the black. But we've also had people and customers across Indianapolis that have requested black windows. A little bit challenging to get today, just being honest, with the supply challenges that we've had. But we believe by the time we get through this new year and we open up the new communities, that we'll be able to offer that to the customers, which again helps support the color varieties. These are some of the new colors. Again, I don't have it rendered on a home yet, and I'm working on that, but I wanted to share some of them with you. Red has become increasingly popular, not necessarily on the siding of the home, but certainly as accents, whether it be in the gables or it's most typically in the gables with the shake material. The Knight's Armor, Gray Heron, and the white, as I spoke about, have been, three of the most popular of the new colors that we've been rolling out. And as I spoke about earlier, the optional black windows. This is an example of the side of one of our homes that will be very similar to what we're going to propose here. So this shows the trim around the windows. This is the example is on an impact lot, which we'll certainly have in this community as well. So those will be highly visible, high impact sites. So typically they're on the corner of the community, and we're working to identify those as well. But this is an example of what that would look like. So you'll have the masonry run across the side, the trim on the windows, and then this home at least shows some of the color blocking as well on the side. These homes are homes we build in another community here in Indianapolis, and they do show the new color packages. So I felt like at least I could share, some of the ways that these homes look with the black windows and some of the newer colors. And, for now, we'll have to envision what that will look like on our product, but wanted to make sure I at least showed you some examples. And who doesn't love the inside? The insides of the home, certainly we've been proud of this from the very beginning. There's not a significant amount of change that we've made to our plans because we believe that our plans live very well and our customers do appreciate the way that our spaces are designed. The bathrooms, flex areas have become, very popular. And as we've talked about what's been going on in the last couple of years, it's important for people to feel and live in this open space, but also have places that they can get away. And our plans we're real proud of. And, but again, you can do a lot of different things on the inside. So for us, we wanted to focus on the sense of community. When you come in, it feels you're proud of where you're coming home, but obviously you're going to spend most of the time on the inside. So we can't neglect to talk about that as well. So, this is just a wrap up of some of the things that Dave and I both talked about, some of the changes from the original plan to what we're talking about today. We did address the density. I had 152 down from 184, so maybe there were a couple changes from a couple versions of this plan, but we are down to 152. We reviewed the cul-de-sac layouts and definitely got some feedback from a lot of different people on the functionality of that in the community. We've improved the percentage of common areas, so over 41%. The fiberboard I spoke about, overhangs, including the trim around the windows, and then the introduction of new exterior colors and packages. Packages are something that we were proposing. We've done it in other communities. So how that works is I'm not a designer. I'm very close with our design team, but we actually have a design team. And they'll put together packages for us. Bless you. They'll put together packages for our customers. And it takes a little bit of some people don't want to have to choose that. They want us to do it for them. They know it will look good. Others have said, I would like to have red in this area and the Knight's Armor in this area. And we're going to propose that in this community. So we'll offer packages for those who don't want to have to choose. But we are proud to at least say, if people want to do something a little bit differently to help, again, the streetscape, then we're working on how that process is going to go, but we're willing to commit. And that's all I have. I'm happy to address any questions.
Okay, just a quick question.
Yes.
So your background coming to the area and everything, I'm just curious about I like the switch from the lots of retention pond to more focused areas and more green space. Can you tell me how that the use of the green space came about, and maybe some of the other communities, what you see are some of the trends on using open space?
Yes. Absolutely. When we review, we talk to a lot of our customers. So we've sold a lot of homes across the country, and we're not the experts, right? We really spend a lot of time reaching out to people who live in our communities that we've built 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's been really eye-opening to me. I lived in a Pulte home here 11, 12 years ago with my husband, and we'll drive through that community. It blows my mind to see the changes in, just a 10 or 11 year period of time. And things have changed. Common spaces used to be packed.
Mhm.
So you would have playgrounds and, lots of, I'm trying to think of other things that you would see, but, fitness equipment people started doing. And it's like we were trying to figure out how to fill the space to make people come in.
Mhm.
Now we're very focused, especially again, coming out of COVID, is people just want an area to go and walk, pass a football or a Frisbee around, play with their children. Walking has been very, very important to us, focusing on wellness for the community. So that to me has been the biggest change, is don't try to force things into an area that people might not appreciate, and allow the community to decide how they want to use the spaces. And that has been a trend here really over the last couple of years.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I know last time we talked about the width of the streets and the fact if there were vehicles parked on the street, could emergency vehicles, specifically fire trucks, things like that, get down the road? Is that you, David?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Okay.
Since I was here on the old team, so
Yeah.
I'll take that one. Thanks, Counselor. I think we've addressed that a couple different ways. One, there was a concern from the staff fire department on the cul-de-sacs and the cul-de loops. Looked great on paper, but functionality was proving to be a little bit of a problem. So we got rid of 3 out of 4, and then we're down to the single cul-de-sac. On the streets, I think we took out a lot of the sharp bends in them. We also took out some of what was called a diffuser in the middle of the street, so I think they flow a lot better. I think if I remember my notes, and unfortunately I was out of town in January, but I read the minutes and was in all the other hearings. I think we had committed, and we would stay with that commitment, to do parking on one side if that made sense, to make sure that we had free flow on the street width. But we'll meet, and we're not asking for any waivers on the street width itself. I think we are on some of the curves, but I think if you look at the old plan versus the new one, they're a lot gentler on the curves. We want to slow traffic down. I've had problems when I did projects in Marion County early in my career, where you'd have these long blocks, and there was 2 problems with that. One, you get a high rate of speed in between the street signs, and 2, it just looks like a gun barrel, Can I borrow that? And I don't think, when you look at the new plan, past that pretty farmhouse, my favorite. So we don't have, you don't really have a street here where you can get a high rate of speed before you start going into a nice curve. And then especially as you come down, but you might consider the spine road, then you kind of come into a nice gentle loop. The houses will move back and forth, just even moving them 2 to 4 feet. If you go from say a 24 to a 28-foot setback, in bringing around a curve, it just creates a nice big front yard. So it's the devil's in the details, and I think, yes, coving, as they call it, curvilineal, has been overused. But we tried to take some of the best elements out of that and bring them into an updated plan that we had, and get rid of some of the ones that were becoming problematic. I don't mean to give you a long answer to a short question, but we listened and heard a lot to make some changes.
Okay, and I don't mean to have a long question and make
No,
you
you
have
can
to
have-
have a long answer, but driveways, how many car parking spaces now will the driveways allow without blocking sidewalks and without people having to park on the street?
Well, they'll have a minimum 25-foot setback, so you'll be able to fit 2 full F-150s, which I drive, which are 21 feet 8 inches with the extended cab, and the crew cab and the extended cab, which I have. My car is 21.8. So you've got spot for 2 in the garage minimum, and then 2 in the driveway without hanging over.
Okay, and
Really
that was,
good question.
and that was my next question, the garage size so that trucks can fit in the garage.
I'm going to have to get back on that one, Dawn. I don't know off the top of my head
Okay,
on the exact garage depth. That one I don't have with me tonight, but we'll certainly provide that information. I know we offer a combination. Sometimes we offer an additional bump to the side a 4-foot bump to the side. Sometimes there's a third car garage. Some of the plans even, well, get back up here. You know them better than I do. Some of the plans have what the integral kind of a tandem.
Yeah,
or
our larger series, the ones that will be north of 400,000, all come standard with tandem garage or third car garage. So a lot of people, use that for whether it's, lawn mowers or yard materials or activities that they do
Or
outside.
deeper cars.
Yeah, that's what I was,
Or the
like,
cars,
a
yeah.
lot of people drive pickup trucks now,
Yeah.
and so, they have to park them outside if the garage
Yeah.
doesn't accommodate the length of them, so.
I know the big series has that tandem where you've got that extra space, in front of the truck. So
That's
you can pull
right.
it in deeper.
Okay,
But we'll check on the standard size of the other. I just don't know off the top of my head. I apologize.
Yeah.
So. And we'll report that back to staff.
thank you.
Thank you.
You all right, Don?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the anti-monotony plan, what your strategy is for ensuring we don't have a,
Monotonous?
very monotonous neighborhood?
Again, a lot of different opinions on really how strict we should be. So typically you'll see, either one to each side and 2 across or 3 across. So we're working through that right now. We're really going to have to spend time on this one just because of the way that the streets flow. It's a little bit harder to really define what equals 2 to this side is easier, but what's across. So we're remaining flexible and open to feedback still, again, on that. But our original thought was probably 2 to the side and 3 across the front. Now, I say that, but it can also mean different things. So let's say we decided we're going to go 1 to the side and 2 across the front or 3 across the front. We're still working through, maybe they cannot do the same siding color. They cannot offer the same brick. So we want, because sometimes they can do the same brick and have wainscoting on the front, but their siding is completely different. So we want to make sure that we still offer some flexibility to our customers to choose what they want while also not disrupting the streetscape. So I don't have, this is exactly what we're going to do, but we're certainly willing to listen to everybody's feedback on how maybe strict we want to be. We understand that's a pretty big topic really across all our communities right now.
You hit the key word, not just now, but earlier with diversity.
Mhm.
I'd like to see diversity and how this neighborhood is going to come out. If it takes longer than just, you said 3 in the front, however you formulate that to where you essentially can't see the same house.
That's right. Okay.
I do have another one. So you showed an impact lot here, which I love the brick wraparound. Can you talk about what the side and rear elevations would look like outside of those impact lots? Because those are special.
So the sides and the rear of the home will all have the trim around the windows. So we've committed to that. The higher impact sites will all have the brick masonry or stone or brick on the sides. The backs of the homes, depending on they're not all flat in the back. So some of our plans have covered patios that or where the sunroom or what am I trying to say? The family room is inverted a little bit from the back of the house. So you do have some variety in the back. Your corners are different on the roof line. So I did take a little bit of time to look at take rates. What will we look at? How many people are taking certain options in our other communities? So we could try to determine what the diversity will look like in the back of the home just from the customers choosing it. And we found between 10 and 20% of our customers in our Belle Arbor community and our Greystone community, which are in Brownsburg, were selecting some structural element on the back of their home. So whether they did a gathering room extension or a sunroom, a deck, and we're just trying to drive through those communities. And we don't want to force options on our customers. We want them to be able to choose, how they want to live in their home. We also understand why we want to protect some of the diversity in the back of the home. So with that, that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
And I don't have any images, but I'm happy to share them.
Well, to follow up on what Robert said, because you did show that one slide with the side of the home. And, you know, you go through a lot of these subdivisions and all they do is flip-flop 2 windows on the right side, and then they flip it to 2 windows on the left side and a door. And then I was also going to talk about the back of the houses as well, because if you go by a subdivision that is being built, and it's a lot of open space there, you see all the backs of the houses are the same. And so I think when you start to move into the price points that you're in, you're going to get people that want diversity, that want to have something different that's unique to them and not to their neighbors. So.
Well, I think, Greg, you know, one of the things we found, Robert, was that we had initial look, and this is one of the things that we need to add to the PUD we're still working on, was impact lots. We had an initial look that had 21 just in our first blush of impact lots that for the community. And then, you know, if a take rate close to 20%, you know, that's going to help add to the back. And then we'll be able to show you what some of the plans already have, things going on in the back to help with the diversity and anti-monotony on the back of the houses. So.
Did I hear you correctly? You said this design, you identified already 21 impact lots?
Yeah, just to kind of walk through what we were thinking, high level. Obviously those two, this, those two here, those here, there, coming in. Anytime we thought that there was a chance that we have a direct view of a side of a house.
It's kind of like an entry point into that next
Yeah,
phase. of the
whenever you had an
subdivision.
entry point in, we definitely wanted something extra on the sides of it. And, you know, the other thing, the way this is also designed, you know, enhanced landscaping can also be part of it, as long as it's in a common area. You know, we don't want to have to rely, no difference to our homeowners, but I don't want to wait to replace the tree till it's in your budget. It needs to be replaced in the planting season. So this is a big focal point here. So this is a big landscape area here. There's other focal points in the community, Robert, where we can tie in landscaping, not just a hardscape on the house. So we're kind of looking at different options on that. So
I'm glad you brought it up. So those, especially those two, the northern common area and the southern common area, I mean, truth be told, even the central one will be as well. Any resident going in there to view that is, you're going to see nothing but the backs of these homes.
Right.
And if they're monotonous, it's going to be very clear. We're seeing the same exact home with different fronts. Is there a chance that you can update? I don't know what your definition is for your impact lot, but update that definition to if they surround one of these common areas, that backside and side should have some of these different textures. Again, if it's a complete wrap, additional windows, et cetera, sunroom, things like that.
yeah, let us, I'm glad we've got this time. Let us study it here before planning commission. You're talking about anything that wraps around here, or around here.
Yes.
Around here.
Yes.
So we've got that trail that you and I talked about, the 0.82 mile trail that goes up through here. So if you walk through here, let me study it. I think maybe the houses, when you come in, my suggestion, just for food for thought, would be here, and if it's on a hard corner or coming where a trail goes through, that probably needs a brick wainscot on it, you know what I'm saying? But I'd like some option to do something else in these behind here, kind of a mixture, you know what I'm saying? If I do brick wainscot on all those, it'll look monotonous again.
Sure.
So give us good homework. We drove together, so we'll be talking about it on the way back tonight. But that attention to detail, you know, we're, like I said, we had good input from third parties. And I think that it feels a lot better the way the community flows, you know? You walk through three distinct usable common areas, one that's very active with the playground, the other two, one probably less active with the gazebo, and then the last one still has a good play area in it. So I feel really good about how those got activated. Let us work on something for the rear of those, and we'll come up with a percentage of the houses in each one of those that has something. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to guarantee it's all of them, but I'll guarantee it'll be substantially over half, and we'll mix it in. Okay? So it'll be,
Some sort of anti-monotony on the
Yes.
back. Yeah, sure.
got it.
I would agree because,
Yeah.
you said that this will be a move-up community for residents that already live in Avon. And
Yeah.
if your neighborhood looks like the next neighborhood, then
Not
how do
really
they
move up.
choose it? How do they choose where they want to move to?
Yeah.
If you have enhanced views of yards and enhanced features that are in those common areas where you're saying that they want to spend their time and that they are going to spend their time, then it only makes sense that there would be improvements to those homes, the backs of those homes.
Sure, I agree.
And I think it would make it an overall more desirable neighborhood, not just for the residents that are going to live there initially, but again, for the move-up buyer that's seeking your neighborhood versus another one when they are ready to move up.
Good point. Thank you. I appreciate it.
David, I got a couple things, just thoughts. One thing you could do too on these, because of the curve and where the houses facing there, just for privacy, just a thought. I've had very positive experience with 3M films where they don't really, it's not like a window tint where you can't see, you could see out, but they can't see in. And it blocks 85% of the UVs. So the southern exposures, I mean, that would give privacy to someone that's backed up to there. In other words, the homeowner would feel better because they know they could see out, but they can't see in, And that film for all my house is like $1,000. It was well worth it.
You don't have curtains in your house?
Well, my wife made me do that, but anyway. The other thought is benches around the ponds. Having a few benches at the ponds is always a great way to make it an area. And I know you talked to the safety ledge and all that, and I don't know everyone's opinion about keeping geese at bay, but sometimes planting native things right around the ponds so you don't have to have a real heavy riprap presence. Just thoughts like that. I know I'm jumping in the details here.
Making notes.
One other detail would be to Greg's point about the aerating of the ponds and what the fountain features. I think that's a great idea to have fountains that would have lights at night. The nice thing about this, when they're in a center area like this, it's a sound baffling effect. It gives a quality of life that can be there. Of course, the HOA could set it where they turn them off at night if it becomes distracting, but it can be an enhancement too. But a lighted fountain, Pulte, you've got them down in Plainfield. My son lives in one of the communities and he loves that, with the lights on the fountains. I think that's all. That's all.
And have you done a new summary on the impact to the taxing districts?
No, we have not. We wanted to get in front of you first and have not updated the fiscal impact yet.
Okay.
We updated the traffic study, and that was submitted, obviously with dropping it by 20 cars, we had a positive impact on, and Steve submitted that to the town, to Steve Moore on that we dropping the units definitely had a positive impact of less cars.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And with Steve Moore too, just that he'll look at the eastbound rights, making sure there's good taper going there, and the westbound left, that there's storage. I'm sure it probably is, but make sure staff gets a chance to look at that.
Well, I would say third time's a charm, but we're on our fourth, so. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming back tonight.
Yeah, thank you very
Looks like
much.
you've put a lot of time and effort into
Yeah,
it.
if I could say something just real quick. I think apples to apples, this is a much better product than we've seen in the past. And I appreciate you listening, taking into consideration all that feedback and bringing something back like this. With that being said, though, as you said, that was a year and a half ago. And so I think a product like this a year and a half ago probably would have got passed. In the technical realm of things, I think something like this will probably make it through Plan Commission, but the decision that we have to make is that holistic decision. And it's that fifth element is this the best use for this land? And I think that's something that we have to take in consideration very seriously moving forward, and not just with your project, but any other project, because we're running out of land. And what we hear from the community all the time, constantly, is that the streets are stressed, the schools are stressed, everything is stressed. And so I think, again, this looks great compared to what we had. And I think they've given you good feedback tonight. But that high level decision that we're going to have to make is this the best use for this land? And that's moving forward for everything.
Sure.
So I think that's something to consider moving forward.
Thank you for your time and your feedback. We appreciate it.
you.
We'll
No, thank
continue to go to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, approval of website modernization agreement. Jared, are you speaking on that?
Good evening, council. I'm Jared Wade. I'm the town's communications coordinator. It's been a very long day. I'm excited to be here though, because I get to talk to you about the website program that we would like to move forward on. Last time that we all met, we talked about the financial side of things. There were some questions that were asked, and I was hopefully able to answer those questions for you. I'm just here to see if we're able to start moving forward in the process. It's going to take about 6 months roughly. Civic Plus is the company that I'd like to move forward with. They're hoping that if we're able to start the process tomorrow, which would be realistically Monday, that the new website for Avon could go live in mid to late January, early February. So starting 2022 on a really great new high note. You have all the information there in your packets, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
If I recall correctly, we've got this budgeted, we can purchase this year. You're not needing us to wait off until next.
Ryan.
Great question. We did not budget in the 2021 budget to do this, but I think in our discussions, we thought this was something important to do. It was probably a good use of some of the CARES Act money, and I know Greg's going to roll his eyes and get mad at me because I'm working on a spreadsheet. Julie and I worked on it today. She can be my witness, and so we'll get that information to you guys. And certainly, we think between the CARES Act and the ARP money that we're getting, that we can find a way to pay for it. We think it's important to the communications for the town. So.
That I would agree with, yes.
That was going to be my question. So then on page 2, Jared, the annual recurring services and $57.74.99. So we're signing a 2-year contract then, is that what it is?
It's a continual, but yes, to start off with, it is, I actually believe it's 4 years. 4 years in total. And then the increase, we're able to get a 3% increase. It was asked before about the 5%. I was able to get that lower down to a 3% for the entire term of our agreement with Civic Plus, or they could postpone it. We decided that, we being Ryan and myself, thought that the 3% for the entire relationship is actually going to save us money versus the 5% being held off for 2 years, and then it's going to get thrown in down the road. So that 3% will start in. But as far as the contract goes, I believe it's 4 years, and feel free, Dan, to correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
The plan you've chosen is 4 years. The agreement term is a base term of a year with a automatic renewal without cancellation, but the package that is proposed is a 4-year cycle. So that gets you a certain pricing advantage. So it will ultimately be a 4-year term.
My last question is, all departments are going to be on this program then?
So from our last conversation, which was during the work session, I've been able to have conversations with some of the department heads. There's a couple that I haven't had an opportunity to sit down with so far. I have been able to speak with Julie as well as Sean with the police department and Mr. Bill Peoples, who was here. But we discussed different elements of the website and if it would help them. I also spoke with John Taylor from the Economic Development Division. They're all on board. They're all very excited about it. This is going to be a process that is going to be us all working together. It's going to be really, really great. But from everybody that I've spoken to so far, and I've also heard very positive responses from the Parks and Rec Department about being on board as well, because they're interested in joining a module that Civic Plus has called Civic Rec, which is similar to their rec desk, but it just integrates significantly easier and better.
Spend $35,000, but I'll need to use it if we're going to pick and choose, and I would not support it.
Absolutely. No, we're going to
Yeah, I
use it.
second that thought. I think if we're gonna invest in this, we're gonna focus on this. It's time we're all one single brand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an exciting part for me. The department themes specifically for police, for Parks and Rec, economic development are going to have this one syncopated feel and visual style that's really going to bring everybody together. And it's going to look a lot nicer than what we have going on right now.
I think you got like a thumbs up over here. Can you say that word again?
Syncopated. It's a real word because I used it in a sentence and you all knew what I was talking about. So
I think balderdash. I think this is good just from the standpoint that it sounds like we're going to tie in with a similar look with the other communities and we can be able to work with it because they're using software similar to this, right?
that's correct. So Brownsburg and Plainfield are both already using the Civic Plus program. And very soon, we're hoping that Hendricks County is going to be using Civic Plus as well. And we're also anticipating Danville joining on board as well. Hendricks County, Danville, and Avon, we are all still on eGov, which is a very old, antiquated system. Hoping to move away from that and future-proof our web presence moving forward. So if we're all in one cohesive feel, going back to Robert, you're talking about kind of a cohesive branding element. It's not only going to be advantageous for us here in Avon, but it's going to be advantageous for the county as a whole.
And Jared, you're comfortable with the first sheet there that shows all the amount of meetings and everything that's being uploaded? You think that those are quantities that will be able to handle our needs right now?
Yeah, this is just the initial pull that they're going to be making from our website as it stands right now, and then we're going to be able to add on moving forward. So they're going to do that legwork, pulling all the old information, agendas, things that we have to have for public record purposes and whatnot. They're going to do that legwork for us, and then moving forward, we're just going to continue to add on like we've already been doing, but just we're going to be able to make it easier and better for the community to have better access on mobile devices, tablets, things of that nature.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, would anyone want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the website modernization agreement with Civics Plus and ask Julie, the clerk treasurer, to pay the first total investment year one not to exceed $34,998.99. Did I get that right, Dan?
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any more discussion? Any further discussion? Julie?
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Aaron Teveba.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Jared.
much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you, Jared. Yeah, appreciate the legwork.
All right, next up is approval to purchase police vehicle camera systems. Sean?
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to come in here tonight and talk to you. Thank you, Jared, for upgrading that antiquated system, because it is, just to piggyback on what he said, eGov is pretty difficult to use, so appreciate that. And before you should have a memo requesting for us to purchase 2 new in-car video camera units from Motorola Solutions. If you recall, that's what we used to call WatchGuard. Same product, different company that owns it now. Over the last several years, we have integrated this system into all of our in-car police cars, camera systems, and it's proven time and time again as our officers respond to calls to help enhance the evidentiary value in criminal court cases, and it's also helped us to combat fraudulent complaints against our officers, as well as allegations against other employees and people on the scene and things of that nature. And in turn, that helps us campaign against risk management and a reduction of town liability and stuff like that. So in an effort to fund these systems over the years, we have funded this through the capital funding plan in the amount of $25,000 in the 2021 budget. We're asking that the town allow us to purchase these 2 new systems And it should also be noted that these systems have the new body camera attachment as well. So you will see a little bit more of an increase in cost there than what you normally would see with just the in-car camera systems. We would ask that you allow us to purchase these 2 units for the 2 additional cars that will be coming next year, fingers crossed, and production willing with the car manufacturers in the amount of $14,520 through Motorola Solutions. And we would ask that it be made from the edit fund, as this is the revenue that was established in the approved 2021 budget for police technology. Be happy to answer any questions regarding the material that you have in front of you or anything else regarding the in-car cameras or the body cameras.
The fact sheets are fun to read.
Yeah.
It's good information. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say they're just transferable. When we get a new car, replace a vehicle, we can move it from one.
That is correct. These units would be for 2 new additional cars that will not have the unit yet. And these all match the ones that we previously got approval to purchase in just a few meetings ago for all the new body cameras and everything.
No questions?
Make a motion that we approve the camera system purchase of the 2 cameras for an amount not to exceed $14,520 to be paid from the edit funds, and to have the clerk treasurer issue a check to Motorola Systems.
I'll second.
Great. Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Aaron Teveba. 4. Steve Eisenbarth. 4. Robert Pope.
4.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, next is approval of the preliminary engineering agreement for County Road 100 North and Raceway Road. Steve?
Good evening, Steve Moore, Public Works Director. We have the contract for the roundabout that we need to get done quickly because there's a funding application due in October. And part of this agreement is for them to assist us with that funding application. So we do have money in the budget to do part of this contract this year and the remainder for next year if the budget is approved. There are sufficient funds to get us to the point that we need to get to for the funding application, which is the goal for this year. Questions?
My only question is, this is the roundabout at Raceway and 10th Street.
Yes.
Is Marion County going to participate in this?
We are responsible for 3 of the 4 corners, and they're not participating.
So we're not going to do their corner?
Well, since it's a roundabout, there's not a corner.
Yeah. We'll cut them off over there.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Greg, I did talk to them. We submitted a funding application 2 years ago for this, and I did ask them to contribute, and they did say no, they wouldn't. But they did actually, in the funding application, they submitted a letter of support to the town, which is probably equally as, I know it doesn't seem like it's valuable, but it is probably as equally as valuable as them participating. And so certainly their cooperation, we can't buy right-of-way in Marion County without their permission. So their willingness to support the project is very valuable, and they did do that. So, and we'll ask them to submit another letter again when we submit our application here coming up. So.
Well, and they've got a lot of that federal money too, that they may be able to carve out just a piece if we ask them again, because at that time, we didn't know that. So,
Steve, do you feel comfortable with the man-hour justification? I see among the different people we have here, they got some, but it doesn't seem to be real thick, but do you feel pretty good with it?
Yeah, I went over it with them.
You think we got it?
Yeah, we
Okay.
developed it pretty much together.
Just for clarification, you're saying that they're not going to contribute to the portion of the road that needs to be built, or the portion
Dollar
of the road built?
signs. They're not committing
And then
dollar
they're still going to
signs.
make us buy right away in addition to not contributing to the road?
Well, it's not theirs. It would be
ours.
private property that we're purchasing.
It
We have
is.
to do land act.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's actually a statute that says you maintain your eastern and your southern borders.
Right.
And so because that's our eastern border and we've annexed it, that means we're basically responsible for the upkeep of Raceway and 100 North. So just because that leg of is actually in Marion County, it doesn't make them responsible for it. Just likewise, if we had that issue somewhere else, we wouldn't be responsible for it either. So it's the statute. They don't have to. And so they have tons of other things to do. They don't want to make it easier for people to live in Hendricks County. So they won't want to do that. They'd rather spend the money downtown, or they're going to go spend the money somewhere else. So
It's the west and the south border, right?
no, it's the east and the south.
The east and the south, that's what I meant.
Yep.
I know Indianapolis isn't west, I know that.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the approval for preliminary engineering as presented and authorize the clerk treasurer to draw. And then what else do you need? You mentioned you need something for the.
Well, it'll be the budget for next year. We'll get
That's
that
for-
approved.
No, I think that's it on my motion.
Did you say the 124.4?
$124,400 as in the proposal that we have, the fee summary.
I'll second that one.
Julie?
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Aaron Teveba,
Four.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Okay, 2022 budget, financial advisor update, Greg?
This is so exciting to start the 2022 budget. I know everyone's at the edge of their seat. We probably lost everybody watching online because they don't care about the budget, but
Actually, I'm really
Greg
excited.
and I are super excited about it, but nobody else is.
Yeah,
so.
because it's been a
And
tough
Julie is
year.
super excited
Julie's
too.
super
Julie's super
excited.
excited too. All
And I'm
three of us.
super excited because Jared is super excited, so.
I'm very excited, yes.
Yeah. So good evening and welcome to round one of the 2022 budget. I believe what we're going to do is go over the general fund tonight in the sustainability, and keep in mind, you have the sustainability document in its entirety, meaning you have not only the budgets worked in for 2022, but then all the, what I call the gory details about how circuit breaker looks, how assessed value looks, and things like that. Now, remember, this document not only serves us in developing and seeing how the 2022 budget looks in comparison to the past and how it will look as we go forward, but it also serves as your valuable rating document when the ratings department or Standard & Poor's are wanting one of the rating agencies call. And so, you want to have a good team approach, and this is reflective of a good team approach with council, with town manager, and then also the clerk's office, because you could be like one of your neighbors that recently got downgraded to a BBB minus because they weren't necessarily doing things, all the way down from a AA minus to a BBB minus and on a negative watch. So you really don't want to go there. And this is an important document, keeping everybody on the same page and making sure that we're all talking and communicating and things like that. So on the general fund, we have what I consider a balanced budget. We are going to recommend that the level be at $6,120,000, which is slightly up than from the sheet that Ryan will show you in a few minutes. And Ryan, are you going to put it up here? Or I've got it in front of me, and I'm assuming everybody's got it on their tablets. Okay. Okay. So if you look at the general fund summary page, you will see what we have there is we actually have a number there of $6,163,000, and we've kind of worked on that, and so we had originally estimated $6,100,000. But as more information has become available, we've been kind of really reconciling our revenues. And you've got on the page 2, all the, I call it the details on the revenues. Remember, you've got three main sources of revenue. You've got property taxes, which have grown 4.3%. I was hoping that tonight I could tell you that, that ought to be revenue neutral because our AV ought to grow at 7%, and that's late breaking news from the county auditor's office, but I can't tell you that because we don't have that. It's my understanding they're having some difficulties again with some outside consultants not providing information down south, and so we're waiting on that. And so that's got to get cleared up, and then we'll get our AV. But I'm thinking that we are going to have stronger than 4.3%. That's the growth quotient in the property taxes. So if we have a growth in AV of 4.3%, then we ought to have a neutral tax rate. Okay, and I think we'll have a neutral tax rate, if not a declining, slightly declining tax rate. But I was hoping to have AV. We do have a good estimate now in here. If you're looking at page 2 of the revenues on income taxes, I hate to tell you, your income taxes did go down, are going to go down slightly, only 0.5%, which backing up from last year at this time, the directive from the Department of Revenue was cut your income taxes 20%. And so everybody was, looking at me and saying, well, what do you recommend? And at this point in time, we kept telling you there ought to be better insulation out of Hendricks County. They ought to have a better income. Well, that's when we adjusted ours. The state even adjusted down to 10% overall. But we did have we are going to have a slight decrease. We have a slight increase in the county, but your share is a slight decrease. And that's just because of the way the pot's divided on the amount of property taxes. So some people have filed some levy appeals and things like that. So the good news is that's very, very immaterial. If you look here, the estimate at this point in time is maybe about $10,000. Okay, that is still an estimate, but it's better than what we had even a week ago or 2 weeks ago, which was still guidance from the state of Indiana going down 10%. Now, I'd like to point out that, I think this is really interesting. Hamilton County went down 3.8%, and Hendricks County went slightly up. And that is behind, I did an analysis for some of our clients up there in the past. They have a large amount of income that is based upon bonuses. And last year, bonuses were far and few between are lower because of the unknown, both in private industries and everything. So that's what impacted Hamilton County. But that was very, very unusual to see them drop almost 4%. Yes.
So it depends upon bonuses. It depends upon if you give pay raises. Are we losing jobs? Is that why it's going down as well? Because I'm thinking the opposite. We're building these industrial parks and we're going to have commercial industrial business.
Yeah, so remember I said the county as a whole went up. It actually went up 0.8. But you lost a little bit only because the division is based upon what you levied in property taxes last year. Okay, and you held your own. So, but we don't have all the details yet, but somebody raised a little bit more than you. They probably had a levy appeal or something like that. Okay, so yes, that's a lot of people still did not get paid, and there was a lot of unemployment. So I like to say, wow, if we came out neutral or Hancock County even grew, then we've really done well. And hopefully we don't have COVID part 2 coming to a theater near us later on. So we got to be careful. And, but I feel really good that we're here. And so so we got our property taxes, we got our income taxes, and then the other sources of revenue is basically everything else. We're going to depend on the building department continuing to build and bring in building permits and things like that. We're going to depend on Julie supporting that food and beverage like she did last year, for those revenue sources and things like that. So as long as the FIT, by the way, is going up, even though the tax rate's going down, so we're hoping the financial institutions tax will come in a little stronger and things like that. So I feel really good about, we've worked very, very hard, and I feel very, very good about, we've got a nice balanced budget for the general fund and for most of the funds, other than ones where, like TIF, we're spending down our cash balance because we got a lot of capital outlay that's going on there, and that's a given. Most people, the way I look at it, there are places like up in Boone County where they say, well, you got to put the capital in there to see if it's a balanced budget. I don't agree with that. That's not the case, because those are one-time strategic spend downs of cash balances, like we're doing in the TIF. The key here in the general fund, it's operating. It's operating. We put our capital in CCD, keeping that rate at the proper 5 cents and things like that. So I like to say, I think the department heads did a really good job, and where we're at. And if we can keep it there, I think then we've got a great springboard into the future to be able to insulate us from, like I said, there may be other things coming. Yes, sir.
Question, can you talk about the negative number for license, excise, and cigarette tax?
Yeah,
23 and then 24 and 25, it goes to zero.
Yeah, so license excise, that's going to be, some of that is going to be dependent on when the state of Indiana finally does the population, enacts the population into the formulas. And we feel there's some really high growth areas. And so we're being conservative with the negative 5%. And the other one on cigarette tax, it's obvious. It is trending down, which may be a really good thing. The vape, I've actually need to look into this. Everybody's asked me, is a vape tax within the cigarette tax? I don't know for a fact it is. And I got to look at that. That's a really, went around the state of Indiana and gave over 5 statewide presentations on budget. I got that one. Got that question. I got to find that out. But Greg, we've just seen less, even though the price per pack went up, we're seeing less packs, which to me is a good thing. But
And this budget will keep our reserve funds in good shape.
that's what we're expecting. Yes. Again, there are still estimates and we're still moving ahead, but at this point in time, absolutely.
Question on your page 1 where you show your budget 21-22. Why don't we show year to date, at least through 6 months of 21, and how we compare to the 21 budget?
Well, we could every time. But that's easily found in Julie's reports, and that's a real tough nut to crack, because if you put some capital, or if you put some things in like what the police department wants and things like that, it's never ever changing, Greg. And I guess this is a format that we think works really well, but your appropriation report, which was what we used to develop the overall budget. Remember, we develop an 18-month budget on Gateway, okay? So we have reconciled the first half of the year. We've then said we are going to spend the second half from Julie's records. We've looked at Julie's records from the revenue standpoint of what she collected the first half, took out any anomalies or any extra payments and things like that. So in Gateway, when we develop the ultimate budget, it is the 18-month and reconciling that. Here, it's probably something we'd have to present in a different fashion.
That was going to be my next question. From the revenue standpoint, you know what your revenue is for at least through June, because you've already gotten your first property tax payment.
And we
And
reconciled
we
all
were
that.
exceeded that, right? So my question is, I mean, the easy way is you annualize that number. If you did that, does that number exceed our budget? That's all I'm looking to see.
Actually, you can't use that first 6 months of property taxes because technically, and we showed you on that one sheet how much was collected for the first 6 months. And it usually runs about 52 to 53%. That's because I pay my property taxes I don't have a mortgage on my small house, so I pay it all up front. And there are a lot of those that they pay up front, and then they also distribute that in the first half. So you'll actually have more collection of property taxes in the first half than you will have in the second tax. And every other tax that we look at, we kind of look at what amount we have collected. And believe it or not, sometimes there is some taxes that you only collect 20%. Auto excise, we've collected over 75%, but we'll only get 25% the second half. So we actually go in tax by tax, and you can tell right here on the general fund, we're expecting budgeted 3.2 million. 3.2 million is only one half of the budget. That's a property taxes. That's only one half of the budget. Okay. Income taxes, we got a full amount of that, but in 21, we separate that. We got our special distribution of $341,000. So you again.
Back that out.
Pardon me?
You'd back that out though.
Yeah, well, we backed it out and put it over into the rainy day fund. Right. And we back it out of the projections. Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on in the revenue itself. Other questions?
This time last year, you seemed more cautious than you usually are about our 2022 budget. How are you feeling this year around?
A lot better because, again, Robert, we were being told 20% for 2022 and 2021 reduction in income taxes. Now, they're still saying there's possible lingering effects into 2022 as we go forward and maybe possibly 2023. But at this point in time, I feel really good about Avon, Indiana. Okay, because we've got the momentum in housing, we've got the momentum overall, and the county as a whole has got the momentum on income. And so as long as we keep that good momentum, then we're able to fund your additional services you need. But at some point in time, if things slow down, then that would be a different story. But at this point in time, I feel very good, and we're a year past what was, looking really bad.
So, but last year, I know we weren't going to see the impact in 21. We were going to see the impact in 22.
Right.
And now you're saying, no, it's not as bad as maybe we had been told or we suspected because we didn't know what type of collections we were going to get from our revenues, people paying.
Exactly. So we're past all that. The state of Indiana has the returns in. Hopefully next year they don't give a lingering effect to the filing tax returns. Remember, they gave 2 or 3 month leeway for even federal income taxes and for property taxes. So there was a whole bunch going on last year. So, and they kept saying 20%. A lot of people, even Morton Marcus, agreed that potentially could happen. But also remember there were some changes in the law that, in everything that happened on basically unemployment and things like that. So.
On our health benefits, you had initially built in 7% increase, I think. Has that been taken out of here now? Because you had indicated, Ryan, that we are not getting an increase?
Correct. So at the time that the budget was prepared and submitted to Greg, it included the 7.5% estimate for health insurance. Thank you. It did include the 7.5% for health insurance. What I've presented tonight that's in the council's packets, that has already had that removed out. So that's why if you look at the sustainability analysis, it shows 6.163 million, which was included that 7.5%. If you look at what I submitted to the council, it's 6.2 million.
Okay.
And so it was about a $40,000 savings to back that out.
Thanks.
Did you say 6.2? You meant 6.12.
6.12. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, because
I just
Julie
made
and I
Greg's
were
blood pressure
looking.
go up.
Because you just went up.
Sorry. I was checking Greg to see if he was paying attention.
Any other questions?
It's always a positive to hear your financial advisor say you feel they're in really good shape. So, thanks, Greg.
Yeah. And I heard you loud and clear when you stopped in that one day. You said, you know, if you can, we always want to be right on, but I think you also used the word conservative and in things like that. And I'm trying to be right on as much as we can, but keeping in mind that there's always changing world events, changing county events, state events, and things like that, you know, sometimes come beyond your control. But remember, we kind of update you along the way, and that's why even in Gateway, it's an 18-month process. So it's been reconciled over the 18 months. So.
Thanks, Greg.
Robert used that term?
Yeah. Yeah. He was here one of the days we were working, and yeah. Sorry, Robert, if I told on you.
Well, in your comment section too, it's not paid, just not numbered, but it's
Right,
number
Dave.
8, and it says the town should annually review all fund balances and determine if any funds may be transferred to the rainy day fund.
Yeah.
I may look at that as we're being too conservative, that we're not leveraging the assets that we have, so we're keeping more money in those accounts, and now we want to put it in the rainy day fund, and we don't touch the rainy day fund. You know, we just put that money in because it was a surprise and it was a welcome surprise, so we put it there.
Right.
But
so
you can take that as two ways, and
Exactly.
And I'm looking at, well, maybe we need to leverage it sometimes, but at the same time, we want our bond rating to be as high as it is.
Well, and so that's why we say annually you look at it and you do a check and a balance and you see what your needs and your wants are, and you align your crosshairs to the proper goal out there. And so that's why it's an annual, we're just saying it should be an annual process.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah,
Sure.
we don't want to be sitting on too much money, but we want to have some reserves ready. So it is a balance there. And it sounds like we're in the right, mix right now. So good.
I have debt and equity discussions daily.
Can you get us some more equity?
Working on it. Anything else?
No?
No, thank
Okay.
you, Greg. I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you very much.
Good
Thank you,
analysis.
Greg.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, next are our resolutions. Resolution 2021-18, the fiscal plan for Harvest Landing annexation.
We were going to go through the general fund budget with you really quick
Oh,
too. Sorry.
sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I know that's disappointing to everybody. Again, we'll do this pretty quick, I think, but we did want to just introduce the general fund. Greg kind of covered the big picture of all the town's finances. And so I'll maybe point to, in your file, you guys have a summary of budget changes. And so I kind of want to just point those out to you really quick. And then I think I'll let Sean and Julie speak real briefly about theirs, and I'll cover some of the other departments. But in general, the things that we did or that are included in the budget that's presented to you is we have a 3% cost of living adjustment for employees. That is just looking at what inflation has looked like. I did say in here that department heads will be given discretion to give their employees that money based on meeting expectations for their departments. So although we call it a cost of living adjustment, I'll still give my department heads the right to either give it or not give it if they have performance issues with any of their employees.
And I think that's what we talked about in the past. Just because it's there, everybody doesn't get 3%.
Correct.
Some may get 0, some may get 1, some may get 5.
Exactly. Yep. Also, I know we've been talking a lot about liability insurance. We don't have numbers yet, but just as a placeholder, we've put 10% liability insurance increase in there. I don't expect, we already got good information on our workers' comp. We're not expecting a 10% increase in our general liability. The one that's out there we're not sure about is the cyber, which we could see a jump in. And so overall, we don't expect it to exceed more than 10% of what we have now. Certainly the great news, and appreciate part of our AIM partnership, we've actually budgeted a 0% health insurance placeholder, which Julie told me to still do something and I didn't do it. So sorry, Julie. Couple other things. I know I've had conversations with a couple of you guys. We're kind of trying to continue to restructure and look at ways to improve the way we do things. And so one of the things that I've asked for is having an executive assistant, somebody who works for me. A couple things, certainly assist with annexations. The council has made that a goal as part of our unification. That takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of coordination. And so having somebody to help me with that. Also customer service, and then just kind of general support of the town manager. So that's an added new position in the budget. A couple other things. It didn't really have a budget impact, but previously when I was the public works director, I was kind of handling all the IT stuff. Steve's not dealing with that anymore. So we just kind of moved that. It was all in the general fund. So it's really just a shift from one budget to the other. So we shifted it out of public works. So if you look at the actual public works budget, if you're like, why did it have a 30% decrease? That's actually just, we moved the IT out of there. And then if you go look at the town manager budget, you see it's a big increase. That's because we just shifted those dollars. It didn't actually impact the overall budget.
Is that what Jared's doing though? Some of that IT?
Jared is assisting me with some of that stuff. Yes. Yep.
So would it go underneath his job title?
Well, not his job title. It's just in my budget, but Jared works for me. So it's not just, Jared's trying to help us with some of the IT in the office, but we also still have consulting that we have to do. And then we also still have to replace computers every year. So those are the two computer items. The other thing I'll maybe talk about real briefly, we talked about the Youth Engagement Council, and the council kind of directed me to see if that fits in the budget. So I did put that in there as well. That was $5,000. So that's in the town manager budget as well. And again, reflected in there. I won't cover the last two because I know Sean will cover those when he gets up and talks here shortly. And then we'll kind of go through each of these individual budgets really quick. I'm not going to go line by line. Town council budget, really no changes other than I did budget a 3% raise for the town council. So you'll see there's only a 2.4% increase. Clerk treasurer, Julie, take it away.
I don't have my sheet in front of me, but mine really didn't change a lot. I did add a little extra in my legal fees this year, only because I've had an excessive amount of public requests that I use the attorneys a lot for. So I wanted to make sure I had that in my budget this year. And then I gave a little bit, I gave a little more than 3% to the deputy clerk treasurer. She does an amazing job. And after looking at the AIM salary survey, she was underpaid for what she does. There are only two of us here in Avon for a town this size. The two of us do everything that like Brownsburg has 8 or 9 people for. Plainfield, I believe, has 9 or 10 people for, and it's just she and I. So I took her from the 50 to the 55, which still isn't a lot, I feel, but it gave her enough that she was very happy to accept. So hopefully the council agrees with me that she is worth every penny, because like I said, she does half the work and I do the other half.
She does the hard half, you do the easy
She does
half?
the hard half, yes. I could not live without her, so. Yes, she's worth every penny. So that's about the summary of my budget. I didn't change a whole lot other than legal fees, Kathy, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. The next budget then is the town manager budget. I did cover most of this already. I will say, if you noticed, I did not put a pay increase in for myself. I didn't feel like that was appropriate. I feel like that's a council decision, so I did not put anything in there. If you choose to give me something, that's fine. If not, no big deal as well, especially Without it, the budget balances, so I almost would rather just leave it alone. The other thing, obviously, again, the executive assistant help is important. That provides me some quality of life as well, so I appreciate that.
Shifting.
Shifting.
Make these improvements over there, that's where these people or this person is going to be then?
Correct. Yeah, we have an extra office space that would accommodate that person. Executive assistant, I already talked about insurance. I don't think there's really any other major changes. Like I said, the Youth Engagement Council and then shifting the computer consultant, which again is what drove up that price. I will point out, if you guys look at the Form 1s, it shows what the last year's number was. And then it also shows what this year's number is in the budget, plus the percentage is kind of in blue there if you look at the bottom. So if you guys want to look at these at another time and look at those percentages, feel free to do that. The next one's planning and building. Planning and building, again, the council had already made some shifts. We added the planning and GIS full-time person. So this budget does incorporate that person as well and continues to have them to be full-time. Other than that, they basically kept their budget the same. A slight shift, just in conversations with Bill and Mike. We had an administrative assistant on that side, and with the implementation of the planning and building tech, some of that administrative assistant work has kind of been taken away. And so we kind of think that position is more suited just as a receptionist person, where they're simply answering the phones, they're directing people to other people, they're greeting people at the door, and kind of have more of that type of a feel versus administrative assistant. We kind of find that job takes up so much time that they don't really have time to now go be an administrative assistant. And so we did reduce that pay a little bit, basically to fill that need.
So they're going to answer the phones for everybody in the building, not just planning and building?
Correct, and that's what they do today as well.
So are we going to get rid of this where when you call the 272 whatever number, it goes to a recording right away?
Yes.
That's going to go away? We're going to have a real live person?
That's what we try to do. That's what we do today. But that's a bit of the challenge with the administrative assistant, because if they're bringing in plans from someone and they're accepting it and they're helping somebody in the lobby, then they can't answer the phone. So yes, that's part of the taking that administrative assistant stuff away. We'll give that to Laura, who's already taking in. She's a planning and building tech, so she'll take those things in, which will leave the receptionist there to be able to answer the phone. So yes, that's absolutely an intent. I won't say that it won't ever happen, because sometimes there's 3 calls coming in all at once and you can't answer all 3 calls. And that's when it rings to the receptionist 3 times. And if it doesn't get answered, it rolls to the calling system. So we try not to do that now, but unfortunately, if someone's running around making copies and taking in plans from people, they can't also be answering the phone. So yes, that's part of the intent of this cleanup. Town court, again, not much change in the town court. I did run this by Judge Eglin, and he said it looked acceptable. Pretty much the only thing there was 3% increases. If you recall, we did put some money in for them to buy software, and I think I informed the council in one of my weekly updates that they were able to get that software at much less of a cost. So their budget actually had computer software updates in there that they no longer needed. So that actually got cut out, which is why you see their budget actually slightly declined this year. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sean.
Can you put the town court on a topic of discussion at our next work session?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hi, Sean.
Hi. First of all, I'd just like to say, I'd like to hear that Greg saying that we don't want to save too much before I start my presentation here real quick.
Here we go.
Well, Brian's not here, so.
Very
I'm trying to be
reassuring,
kind.
very reassuring. No, I'm just going to start with a few, some real positive notes here. We're not going to see any increases to the chief or deputy chief positions. Like Ryan said, I'll reiterate that it's already a balanced budget. We reserved those increases so that we could use that revenue in a different area in the budget. There won't be any increases to the longevity program, no increases to our uniform allowance. And we've eliminated a couple other budget line items that we felt were no longer needed because we hadn't really used those the last couple of years, or we've used them from another revenue source. We plan to maintain the 6 new vehicles that we have in the budget for 2022, and hopefully those will be able to be built at some point, and we'll actually see those. There's some minor increases in fuel, cell phone forensics, and cell services for jetpacks and stuff like that for the in-car computers that the officers use on patrol. Insurance increases, I think we originally had a 10% placeholder in there, and so that was great news that came in, and we were allowed to take that out, and that the material you have in front of you reflects that reduction already. So we'd also like to continue to at least have discussion about a possible training facility at some point on the town property behind Ashley Furniture. I know we've talked about that before. Some people have referred to it as a substation, but we've referred to it also as an actual training facility where it would be a large open area for different various training. Some of the increases to our budget, we would like to talk about pay increases a little bit, and then Jerry's going to put up a chart there for me that we've brought in for you to kind of review. The first thing we'd like to do is we'd like to increase the patrol officer pay to $60,000. And if you take a look there, you're going to see some data that we've gathered from AIM as well as agency websites that's going to show that while we have some of the best officers in this county or even in the state, we have great equipment, we have great training, and we have great support from all of you. And we couldn't do all of those great things for the community that we do without your support. But at the end of the day, as you look at those figures up there, based on all that data, our patrol officers fall well below the average pay for the police officer. Now, they have great benefits, and they have great leave benefits and things that you afford to them as well. But as you notice in that little footnote down there, some of the other agencies that are in this short study, if you will, pay only $1 per pay for insurance. Some of them have higher clothing allowances. Some of them have reimbursement incentives for college reimbursement, advanced continuing education. So even though we have a great position here with the town of Avon, and we're very appreciative of that, the pay still falls well below the average. And what we're finding out now is on a regular basis as we do hiring processes that it's very difficult to be competitive with some of the other surrounding agencies like you see on the screen there. Because in the end of the day, we can have a great culture here, we can have a great community, great support from all of you, but unfortunately what drives people's lifestyle is pay to some degree. And so we're trying to get that up so that we can attract, retain, and get good candidates. Yes?
You don't have Danville on there?
Some of the information we were not able to obtain because they either don't participate in AIM or they don't have it on their website.
Well, you were talking on it, and I was just thinking too, you're going to move it to 60, but if you took the average and moved it, you'd be right there with Brownsburg. And because I work in Brownsburg and I go by their city hall every day, town hall, and when we're looking for officers, they're looking for officers at the same time. Well, if we're $8,000, $7,000 less, and they're probably looking at the same applicants, they're going to go where the money is. So
sure, and that's why I wanted to mention that we do get a lot of candidates just mainly because of the culture and the reputation that the town and the police department has in this community, and people want to be a part of that. There's also another footnote to Brownsburg. I'm glad you brought that up, because when they report their information to AIM, they actually have a matrix and there's a pay range for that position. And I believe the number that they provided to AIM was actually the mid-range for patrol officers. So officers that have 10, 15, and 20 years or beyond as a patrol officer are going to be even in that higher pay range. So there's an incentive to go there because maybe in the future, after you have 10 years on, you're going to make even more than just a 10-year officer with the Avon Police Department.
But I think our need is the entry-level ones, the less than 5-year officer, maybe even less than 10, using that example.
If I think I understand your statement or question properly, we have two pay grades. We have a 1-year probationary officer pay, and then after that, they jump to first-class patrolman pay. If you remember a few years ago, we asked you to eliminate that second tier for this very reason, because it was harder to compete without having that higher salary. So we tried to do everything that we could to make it more attractive to come to Avon without having the ability to throw a bunch of money at the bottom line of the base pay rate. So we would love to increase that, but we're also trying to be fiscally responsible so that we can help maintain a balanced budget, so that we can get this through, but at the same time show the officers and potential candidates that we're making an effort to bring you here and take care of you and your family. We are competitive with pay and all of the other things, so we're hopeful that will continue to bring in some good quality candidates. Any other questions about the patrol officers' pay?
I'll talk to you offline.
Okay. We did offer a 3% administrative assistant increase. Crystal's doing a great job, and that's a pretty minimal. She started out kind of in the mid-range of that area, so we feel like she's due. Because of the offset of the pay salaries between the ranks, patrolman, sergeant, lieutenant, deputy chief, and so on. Anytime we do across the board raises like we've done in the past, obviously simple mathematics, the higher salaries, they grow exponentially a lot faster rate than the lower. So we feel like the sergeant pay range is closer to where it needs to be. So we didn't institute the 3% range there. We only did the 2%. And obviously for the administration, we're taking 0. We did change one of our job descriptions late last year from our evidence technician to an actual CSI position. And Ashley Chappell, she went from our administrative assistant to that position, and she's been attending a lot of training, and she's going to be going to some more training, and then some more training, and more training, and more training. So that position is a very serious position. She's going to be one of only a few in our county that's going to be a certified, ILEA certified CSI technician. So when we started doing some salary studies on her position, we found that she was well below the county average. So that by increasing her pay to what you have there in the spreadsheets, that will bring her up to the county average. The biggest expenditure is we'd like to add the 3 additional police officers, and that would bring us up to 38. And in doing that, that leads to the next position or the next increase, which will allow us to advance to a much more efficient schedule that Deputy Chief Margerson has been working on probably for the last 6 months to try to get it worked out so that we can really utilize all of the resources and manpower that we have in the most efficient and fiscally responsible way that we can to provide the most service to the community. So in doing that, that's going to allow us to restructure our organizational structure and reinstitute the rank of lieutenant over a day shift and a lieutenant over night shift, and with 4 sergeants for each squad on each basically 12-hour rotation.
I'm sorry, you said 3 or 2 officers?
3.
Because in here in the summary, it says 2.
Yeah, so I think my summary kind of says the same thing. So it says 3. Yeah, thanks, Dan. It says 3 plus 1 to fill in the back shift or to fill the position with the Tajay basically moving. So that's basically the same 3 Sean's talking about.
Oh,
I just
okay.
kind of said it differently.
confusing.
I apologize.
Brian would have laid this out, would have been flowed.
It wasn't our fault, Greg.
Right, okay.
Don't blame us.
Okay. Now, do you think, I know we've always played catch up with police officers. Are we catching up?
I think we're doing a really good job at it. I know when we first started looking at our long-term plan to add additional officers, several years ago, we did a salary or a manpower study, and I think we came up with the number 37 to 38 is where we'd like to be in 10 years. And here we are about 8 years later, and we're at 35, and this is going to get us right up there to where we were kind of looking at years back. Now, the problem we have is the most recent information came out just the other day regarding census. And if you notice, Avon grew just over 72%. And it's the highest growing area in Hendricks County, while most of the others, I think, grew around between the 20s and 30 and maybe 40% in there too. So yes, I think we're obtaining that goal that we set several years ago, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for the rate of growth that we've seen residentially, as well as the commercial and economic growth that we've seen.
You could update that. You're right. What is our population? What did it come back at? From what?
12, yeah.
Okay.
We've also added a little bit more overtime, not because we anticipate more overtime, but we have some proactive initiatives that we want to take advantage of as we get our officers out of the academy and we start to get full staff again. And one of those things is to be able to get out there and really have an impact on our narcotic interdiction efforts that we have here in the town. We have some officers that are very, very motivated. They've been attending training just for narcotic interdiction. You've helped us institute the flock cameras in the community, as well as some of the other entities that we're looking into having them provide flock cameras. We're having amazing success with that. We just had a jury trial today where a couple of our officers made an arrest based off of that. The suspect thought that he was going to beat it like he's beat it in Marion County time and time again. And we just learned this evening that they've received a guilty verdict. And he's going to be looking at about 40 years in prison, possibly in accordance with sentencing guidelines. So we'd like to do that more because it's proactive and it gets people off the street, and it helps us combat crime before it actually happens. So all of these things together helps us do this job much better and more efficient.
You talked about the training facility. Is that in a capital project area of this? Or is this something we need to add, or?
I think when we talked before, we were kind of looking at possibly using TIF.
Yeah, it's not in there, but we're redoing the capital improvement plan right now, so we're updating it. So I know we've had some conversations about it, but I don't believe it's actually in the capital improvement plan yet. So we can add it, get it in there.
I
That way
think
Greg
we're
can
just
plan how
really
to pay
trying to
for it.
focus on getting the room addition onto our police station finished right now, but we're also trying to think ahead so that we can.
Well, that'll be done by 2023, won't it?
I'm being told they have an aggressive timeline and they're hoping this can be done after Labor Day. So be happy to answer any other questions you might have regarding our budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the last one then is the Public Works Department. Again, nothing really of much interest. In the Public Works Department, it actually went down. And again, that's the reduction, moving the computer consulting. So I'll kind of in summary, if all of you look at the general fund total, as Greg told you, actually just hot off the press today, Greg and I had a conversation. We're at $6,120,828. And so Greg told me he was comfortable with us going $6,120,000. So basically minus $828 what's been actually submitted to you guys would potentially be a balanced budget unless the council has some other items they want to add in. So
You rounded down. Why didn't you round up? Come on. I would like to talk to Ryan or to Sean or even anybody and about that $60,000 salary level for officers to maybe look at the average. So if we do decide that, I mean, I don't know, my question was going to be how many people would fall into that category? What's the dollar amount times whatever? What is that number going to be? Because we do get good qualified officers and we want to maintain and retain them, so.
The only thing I would say there is I would just caution because everything that you do is going to have a reaction in other areas. So if we jump up to that amount quickly, that's going to push us right into the sergeant rank pay. And then if you want to separate them at an adequate level, then you're pushing that sergeant pay up into the lieutenant pay and so on. And it just becomes a domino effect. So I'd be happy to
Maybe
look into
work on a
that.
spreadsheet or something and
Yeah.
see, but
if
it doesn't make sense, that's fine, but I just want to make certain.
It makes perfect sense, but I just think we need to proceed carefully so that we don't find ourselves exceeding what Mr. Garitas has told us is sustainable.
You'll round up then instead of round down.
Sustainable.
Well, I mean, if I may, the number one thing on the table this year with anybody's budget has been wage pressure. And, Sean, I'm where every municipality, we're kind of working up a new matrix, the county is, the Hancock County is, Shelby County is, the matrix and then they're coming up with a little more creative salary ordinance where you have a low, medium, and a high and things like that. I will tell you that any of those surveys are probably after this year are going to be outdated. And a survey needs to be run probably on 2022. I tell everybody, forget about AIM, get the salary ordinances as they're being presented later this year. And then what we're doing is if we're looking at moving to a matrix and looking at it, we're also looking at doing it over a period of a year or two, gradualizing, bringing it in. But there's no doubt, that, a lot of people are sharing officers in different, one's going over here, one's going over there. They're chasing pay, they're chasing CDLs, they're chasing everything. And so, we would need a transitional plan, in my opinion. So.
I think one of the other things Greg and I have talked about, and I think I've mentioned to Brian too, is that maybe we look at a 5-year plan for the police department in terms of pay and officers, and that you kind of create a plan of how we're going to go in the future, which I think Greg has kind of done with us by saying, let's consistently hire 2 officers so we don't get to a point where now all of a sudden we're 10 officers behind and we got to find a big chunk of money. Like, let's have a plan and let's move forward and progress that plan so we don't get in a position where we have to do a big jump all of a sudden all at once where it hits the budget pretty hard.
Exactly, Ryan. And what we're doing is if we are instituting a matrix and trying to phase that over, then we kind of work out a commitment on how many new officers over that same period of time we're putting. Because if you do new officers at 3 and then pay moving in, you're not going to be able to afford it. And that's the reality that I've been dealing with in other areas. And, thank gosh you're not doing it in fire, because usually it's police and fire. So we got to kind of, that's the transitional plan of moving to try and get, obviously, wage pressure is huge. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Ryan, you didn't have anything else to say on Public Works? Can I move on to resolutions? All right, Resolution 2021-18, Fiscal Plan for Harvest Landing Annexation.
Yes, so this is, as the council is aware, whenever we do an annexation, we're required to actually complete a fiscal plan. And Mr. Garatos, our financial advisor, actually prepares these for us based on our budget and everything. So Greg evolves these, so every year it's based on our budget. And so again, this is the consideration for the council to make a decision when you're deciding if you want to annex a property or not. Most of these, in particular, Harvest Landing, I'll maybe cover all three of these for you really quick just to accelerate things. All three of these are pretty small. Harvest Landing annexation is, if you recall, there was one house left that wasn't actually annexed as part of Harvest Landing, which is the development where Costco is. And so this is bringing in the last piece that had that last house on it. And it's not a very large property. And again, it has a relatively positive impact. The Patel annexation is, the property owner actually owns 3 parcels at the corner of US 36 and County Road, or actually Ronald Reagan Parkway, I apologize. Or sorry, Patel is the one on County Road 900 East, just north of Harvest Landing as well. He owns 3 parcels. It's about 16 acres. Again, if you look at the fiscal plan, it does have a positive impact as well. And then the last one is the northeast corner of US 36 and the Ronald Reagan Parkway. And again, it has a positive impact as well. This one's a little unusual because it's actually, the property owner owns 3 parcels and one of them is already annexed in town. The other is stuck between an annexed parcel and actual right-of-way that's in town. And so he really can't do any kind of development if he doesn't bring it all. He actually approached the county about doing a commercial development there, and the county directed him to us and said, hey, you already have 1 parcel in town. You might as well just go get the whole development in town and work with the town of Avon. And so that's what this property owner is doing, is trying to get all of them into the town of Avon. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, it's probably not part of this discussion, but I'll bring it up anyhow. That parcel you just talked about, can you build something there? Because there's really no egress, no ingress.
It is going to be a challenge, and they've met with Bill already, and Bill communicated to them that it was going to be a challenge. And I told him when he wanted to be annexed that it would be a challenge. The problem is he really has no choice. He owns the property, and so it's still in his best interest to get it annexed and have it all in one municipality. No matter what he does with it, it's still to his benefit to have it in one jurisdiction. And so he's aware he's got challenges, and he did not withdraw the annexation petition. So,
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Any discussion on any of them? Let's go with the first one. Does anyone want to make a motion on the 2021-18?
I make a motion, we adopt resolution 2021-18, the fiscal plan for Harvest Landing annexation.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and 2 seconds. Julie?
Aaron Teveba.
For.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Steve Eisenbarth. 4.
How about for resolution 2021-19, any discussion beyond what Ryan discussed?
I'll make another motion, we adopt resolution 2021-19, the fiscal plan for the Patel annexation.
Second.
Julie?
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Aaron Teveba.
For.
And lastly, 2021-12 for the Sing annexation, any discussion? Motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2021-20, the fiscal plan for the Sing annexation.
I'll second.
Julie?
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Aaron Teveba.
For.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
All right. Dan, it's your turn to talk. We've got a final reading on ordinance 2021-19, amending the rules for buried utilities.
Yes, this ordinance brings your code into conformance with House Enrolled Act 1164, which made changes to the underground utilities structure that you have. And so it makes changes that would bring us in compliance about residential districts and our underground utility requirements. It would introduce some new technology, new words into our ordinance that weren't there. It mainly involves 5G networking and what is called small cell wireless. These will be attachments onto utility poles that I would say are about the size of a speaker we probably had way back when in our houses, but and it also makes clear that we the town cannot restrict height or distance between the two facilities any longer, which we had tried to do, of course, like everyone else. So this is really all driven by the 5G and people's strong interest in having a good network. And this is second reading.
Any discussion?
I don't like it.
I know.
Yeah, that height, and that's me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't write the law. I just telling you what the law is. Please call your state representative.
Sometimes we have to go with it, but yeah.
I don't think any municipality is probably favorable of it, but we're all stuck with it. So
Yeah.
with that
And it-
said,
Yeah, and it's already the law. You're just putting it in your code so everybody can see what it says, and it's helpful to your staff and the applicants, but it's already the law, so.
does anyone want to make a motion?
I don't want to, but I make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2021-19, amending the rules for buried utilities.
Second.
Julie?
Aaron Teveba,
Four.
Robert Pope,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
Against.
Okay, final reading on ordinance 2021-20, amending the rules and procedures for remote participation.
Yes, the state legislature also made a change to allow new flexibility, a new exception to the open door law that arose out of the lessons we learned in the pandemic. So you will still, in a medical health emergency declared by the governor or the county commissioners, you would still be able to meet as you did in the worst part of the pandemic, which would mean all remotely, and you could, all the other rules regarding quorum and who's present would all be suspended. The real important part of the new law is that it would allow you greater flexibility in non-emergent situations. And that law says that if you adopt a written policy, you could also have some of you participate remotely. If your job or illness takes you away, then as long as 3 of you are present, physically present here, 2 of you could participate remotely. You have the technology to do it. Not everybody does, and so there are some restrictions imposed by the state statute on that, but it would provide some flexibility, would allow you, if you were away in business or you were sick or quarantined, it would allow you to continue to represent the people who elected you and participate in that way, subject to the conditions imposed by the legislature. So this is gives you a little more flexibility. This ordinance, if adopted, would not only place this policy into your code in the section that has your town council policies, but as you can see in the attachment, you have rules of procedure that you've had for a long, long time. And in there are rules about quorum and meeting and who can vote. So this ordinance would also make conforming changes to the appropriate section of your rules of procedure. This is also second reading.
Is this the one that we talked about under the initial reading where the person in remote status would not be able to vote?
Yes, there are some circumstances, like a budget adoption, for example, is that there are certain topics. I think there are 7 topics the state legislature says you can't vote on if you're participating remotely. And what the public access counselor has said is that if any of those 7 items are on the agenda, you can't vote on anything at that meeting. That's a meeting you need to attend in person. Those are, in addition to budget, is reduction of personnel, initiation of a referendum, establishing or increasing fees, establishing or increasing a penalty, use of eminent domain, and the establishment, raising, or renewing of a tax like your LIT or your CUME capital development funds, which are take action like that. So yeah, there are going to be some meetings. It's not going to be, you could still participate electronically or remotely, but you couldn't vote. But again, probably 80% of your meetings, you don't deal with those issues. So it does give you just flexibility.
Any other discussion?
I don't see a problem because you can miss or you can't miss more than two. And that's the key to me, is that someone doesn't just say, well, I don't think I want to be here. Therefore, I could do it remotely. And that was my concern when I first heard this, but the way it's written, I agree. It's good to have it as some flexibility without making it someone can take advantage of it. So.
Tonight would have been a good one to be Zoom because you'd be home in your pajamas for this long meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Make sure I back up here to it so I can read it. Ordinance 2021-20, amending rules for procedures for remote participation, that we accept the electronic participation as presented.
I'll second.
Julie?
Aaron Teveba.
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Okay, we have introduction and public hearing for ordinance 2021-21 Harvest Landing annexation. Is there anyone remaining in the public that would like to come forward? If no one coming forward, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Does anyone on staff want to speak on the introduction? Other than what you've already said?
No, not probably other than what I already said. Just, again, these are just introductions of ordinance. They're pretty straightforward. The ordinance does identify like council district, any conditions with the annexation, and then it has an attachment that's the legal description. And then really, these are all super voluntary annexations, so they don't actually require an exhibit. So the exhibit in there is actually just for the council's information to help you visualize where it's at. I think that's it.
Discussion?
No.
Okay, we'll consider it introduced. Move on to introduction and public hearing of ordinance 2021-22, the Patel annexation. And we'll open it up for public hearing. No one coming forward. We'll close public hearing and consider it introduced. Any discussion? No. Introduction and public hearing of ordinance 2021-23, the Sing annexation. Again, we'll open public hearing. No one coming forward. We'll close public hearing. Any discussion? Consider.
I just noticed that the verbiage on here says council district, we have wards. Difference. Under number 1, Avon Town Council District.
It only matters if it matters to the clerk. So we'll check that. It's really important what she calls it.
Okay, we'll consider it introduced. Next is legal counsel report.
Okay, so I just want to report to you a couple things. The first is that aside from seeing you twice a month, we attend 7 meetings per month, and part of that we can observe your boards and commissions work and your team. And I just want to report to you they're all doing a great job. We have experience elsewhere, so we can compare, but I know that we've had about 3 really just outstanding meetings by your volunteers, the people who volunteered for your other boards and commissions. So I know Dawn was in could see it Monday night, but you didn't always get to see it. So just from where I sat, I think your staff is doing a good job preparing them, doing great reports, getting things done. And then your citizen members are doing a fantastic job as well. And they probably don't get enough credit, but they're doing a great job. And so I wanted to pass that on to you. And then secondly, during budget, I just would be remiss if I didn't say, sometimes when you make budget decisions, I'm going to be the guy over here saying, remember risk management. So I want to thank the chief for saying what he said earlier, but I also want to agree with him that, those cameras will pay for themselves with your insurance premium savings and your attorney's fees savings over the time. They'll pay for themselves. That's not only, it also allows us to protect the integrity and the professional record of our officers who get accused of things that they don't do. These have been difficult times for police officers, but the cameras, in my experience, the cameras always exonerate our officers. Not just here, everywhere. The cameras always exonerate. And sometimes it's very difficult to line up that experience with the allegations, but you have good officers. This is just your way of backing them up. This gives them backup, and it's very important what they do. The second thing, just from a risk management point of view, too, what you pay for your officers matters in terms of risk management. Aside from the issue of whether they deserve that, a pay increase or not, and for the sake of your argument, I'll say they do. But from a risk management point of view, if you can keep the good officers you have, hire good candidates, that really matters as well. Okay, it's a difficult job, and it's a job that requires, a high degree of honesty, integrity, and ability to work with people who are sometimes yelling at you and not being nice to you. So the better, the higher that entry-level pay is, that's also a risk management decision. It's not just a budgetary decision, and I would invite you to think of it that way. I was not asked to say this. I'm just saying the risk management hat I always have on, and we really go for all of your team, but you all know from just watching the news what a difficult time it is to be a police officer and how people may be more inclined now to make allegations against them. So giving them the tools where they can have video to corroborate their version of the events, having pay that attracts good candidates, and giving the other part of risk management that is budgetary is giving all of your people good equipment, whether it be vehicles or computers or whatever they need. We want everybody in safe equipment that's well maintained. All of that goes into risk management. So Craig Garitas, the pride of Bicknell, I love him. He talks about accounting. I'm talking about the other side, which is your budget is a policy document. So please think about risk management issues as you make your decisions. I think you guys always have. I think you do a great job of this. It's just my gentle annual reminder. Thanks.
Good point.
Did you say thanks, Dad, or
Yeah.
thanks, Dan?
Thanks, Dan.
Oh, okay. I thought you said thanks, Dad.
Dad to Dan.
I know. Public comments? Anybody? No? We'll close public comment. Council comment.
I'm just wondering if we should, as each of us council members, put some names to Ryan to consider for the commissions, because we do have several people, that moved out of the area or different reasons. So it might be good to do that. And I've got a couple on mine that I'll pass on, but I think those applications are really the good way to start it.
Okay. Anyone else? Council calendar.
Yes, next meeting is September 9th. We do have a work session at 5:30 PM and then the regular scheduled meeting at 7 PM. I will also, just to get on your calendars, please remember that October, November, December, our meeting schedule changes to the first and third Thursdays of the month, just to kind of get you guys to start thinking of that. Make sure it's right on your calendars.
Can we send a calendar invite?
I think you already did. Please don't send any more.
She only did the first half.
Oh, she only did the first half of the year? Okay. Yes, we'll get something out to you
I'll
guys.
send you a calendar invite.
Thank you.
I do like those. Yeah. You send those. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call it 9:31 adjourned.